Hello, in this video we're going to go through the allowance mechanism in LS activity. Basically, allowances is when you sell a product in bulk, maybe for example 10 sessions of some services, and you sell them up front and maybe the client gets a better price. And then you gradually consume or use that particular services. There are two options on how the revenue is posted. The simple method is then when you initially sell the bulk of the product, then the whole revenue is posted at that point. Second option, which would be posting the revenue initially to an interim account, and then when the customer consumes or uses the services, then the revenue is posted gradually from the interim account to the actual revenue. So there are two methods. In this case, I'm going to show you first the simple method where we're just posting the revenue all up front initially. So I'm going to need to show you the setups. The only setup needed on the product, if you take a look at this massage 30 minutes here, and I want to be able to sell it in bulk of 10s or 20s. And then if I go to activity pricing, then we see I've set up here a quantity of 10, and then the price is 25 if you buy it in bulk of 10. Here I also have a setup 20, and if you buy it in bulk of 20 you get it for 20 per session. So this is the only setup needed. So if you have a setup here where you have quantity more than one, then it's considered an option of selling that particular product as in allowances or as allowance. So the next step is that the customer buys the product. So I'm going to open up the pause, and what you have there is something called pre-sales. So I'm going to go open that button here just to show you what is needed to set up on the pause. So we have a pause command called pre-sell product, basically to sell the allowances, and then you just select the parameter of the product you want to sell as multiple sessions. So in this case, I'm just going to select this pre-sell spa sessions, and you see we get these two options here, bulk of 10 or bulk of 20. You can select bulk of 10, hit OK. The system needs to know the client, and you can either create a client up front, or you could have a new button here to create a new customer. But I'm just going to select Teresa here. She's already registered, and as you can see, we just create a sale here. We're selling massage 30 minutes in bulk of 10, and it created this allowance. And notice this is identification of this particular allowance. So the customer just pays, and what happens in the back end, I'll show you. If we open up the back end again, go to nav, go to allowances here, and we see we issued this allowance 938. It's 10 sessions, quantity issued. The unit price is going to be 25. This is the transaction. This is the previous transaction I was showing you, which is posting, and we can drill down to the transaction. This is the client. There's no expiry date. You can set up on a product expiry date, so the allowance is only allowed for X number of months or years, whatever your option is. And then we will keep track of when this product is gradually consumed. And the status here says it's posted, so it's all finalized and ready to be used. So next, what happens is the client is booking either through the pause or through the back end, doesn't matter. And at this point, the revenue was all posted up front to the revenue account, and there's no postings when you actually make a booking. Excuse me. So if we go to book appointment to massage 30 minutes, and I'm just going to select open session, Dorrit Fletcher, new activity, and I'm going to select Teresa Worley because she has the allowance. Hit OK. And I get a message here that this client has outstanding allowance for this product for time number of times. This is just telling me that this customer has allowance. And otherwise, I just get up the booking form or the booking card. And we can see the unit prices according to the allowance. And we can see a price comment here, allowance price, meaning just notifying that this price is based on allowance. And we can see the allowance here. Actually, we can even drill down and just take a look at it. Teresa has the 10 sessions. So at this point, we see the balance is 25 and the total amount here is 25. But if I hit OK, I'm just going to confirm this. What happens is that the allowance is going to consume this entry basically. So we're going to go back to allowances. And we see now we've one quantity consumed and we are remaining quantity 9. And we can drill down to the consumption and we can see this entry. This is the activity that basically using part of the allowance. So if we go back to the product, to the booking, and just take a look at the booking here, and we see now that total charges, of course, still 25, but the balance is 0. Because when we confirmed, the system noted that this was a allowance entry, and it assumes it's basically paid by the allowance. There are no financial postings because we use the simple method to actually book all the revenue up front, so we're just keeping track of the allowance use. There's another option to use this if you want the revenue posted gradually as the services are being consumed. So the only additional setup needed for that, if you go to the administration part, then we have to find the activity type for this particular product, which is spa appointments. Just going to open up that setup. So there we have something called allowances here section and pre-sale posting type revenue at sales posting. That was the default one, but if we change this to revenue at consumption date, that means a little bit different process of how to deal with the booking. So in order to be able to set up this revenue, we need to select an item to be used as a posting item when you sell this upfront. So I'm going to pre-sell mass here. So this, when I change these settings here, what happens then when I actually sell the allowances, it's going to be posted to this through this item here, or basically which would be pointing to an interim account. So the revenue is not posted to that particular product, but to this interim product or interim account, so to speak. What happens then is when we actually consume this services, we would have to do it through the point of sale. We would have to always pay basically the booking, because at that point the revenue would be posted basically from the interim account to the actual revenue account. So I'm going to show you how that's going to work. So now I'm going to sell this to another client. Of course, note when you decide the revenue method, you have to decide up front. You cannot mix, or basically you cannot change the activity type after you're starting to use the allowances. You would have to decide up front which allowance method you're going to use. So I'm going to go back to the pause. I'm going to sell, pre-sell, process of selling exactly the same. I'm going to pre-sell, sale, bulk of 10 here again, and I'm going to select another client, Sabina here. So Sabina is buying this allowance. I'm just going to pay that allowance. Exactly the same process of selling the allowance. But if you go back to the back end, go to allowances, and we have the second entry here, 940, Sabina Garcia. And let's see, what happens is that let's see here, we have Sabina Garcia and we have the transaction here. I'm just going to drill down to the transaction just to show you that this revenue was now posted to this item 1500, which is going to be pointing to the interim account. So you can see here it's to this pre-sale account. What happens now if I book something? If I book something through the back end, it will be exactly the same process as before, or the POS, doesn't really matter. I'm just going to select create a booking, and I'm going to select Sabina now. We will get the message, same as before, that this client has outstanding allowance. Hit OK. And we will get the allowance reference here. And she gets the price comment, allowance price, exactly the same process before. I hit OK, it's going to get confirmed. And if you just take a look at the allowances, we see again here that the consumption entry is here. And that's all fine. We have one consumption here. So the consumption has been registered, but if we go back to the posting here and take a look at this entry, we would see that the balance is still 25. The allowance didn't clear the balance because we will have to finish it through the POS when the customer arrives, because we want the revenue to be posted at the date of consumption. So if I go to the POS now, and let's act like it's the day of consumption. So then at that point I would just pay the entry. This case here, the last this massage 30 minutes Sabina, and I'm gonna hit OK. And you see now that the balance is 0 because we got the treatment charge, and now it's actually posting the revenue basically off the interim account here to balance the sale, and it says which allowance is being used. So I hit total cash, OK. And if we take a look at now the allowances, and we see now to consumption, now we see that the entry is here and it's still here, and it just has been posted to as revenue at that point. So exactly the same process, but you can choose revenue all up front or revenue as it's being consumed. Thank you. That's all about allowances.